To me, being remarkable is non-negotiable. It's about surprising and delighting your customers and leaving something behind that's worth talking about. To build remarkability, you need to constantly be thinking about what could be. My very special guest, Fred Schebesta, said that, and I couldn't agree more. Remarkability commands attention. It is surprising and worth mentioning. If something is remarkable, you want to tell your friends all about it. And you're going to want to tell your friends all about this conversation with Purrr, with the one and only world-famous entrepreneur, Mr. Fred Schebesta, founder of Global FinTech Finder, an incredible platform helping millions of people all around the world to save money and make money. Fred is an Australian Financial Review Young Rich Lister and LinkedIn Top Voice of Australia. He is a futurist, a fellow serial entrepreneur, and has a net worth roughly of about 250 million. His latest book, Go Live, The 10 Principles to Launch a Global Empire, is really a must-read for any current or aspiring entrepreneur. I read it from cover to cover in one sitting and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I highly recommend it. Fred encourages us to make mistakes, to try new things, to go bigger, go for something that's scary, to push the boundaries, be extraordinary, be uncomfortable. Fred gives us the permission to fail and grow. As Albert Einstein says, if we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research, would it? I'm delighted for this conversation with Purrr, with the irrepressible and extraordinary Mr. Fred Schebesta. Welcome.
Oh, wow. Yes. Amazing.
Would you like to have some chai?
I've heard about this world famous incredible chai. It's like
It is
next level.
bloody delicious.
You can't go past a bit of chai for breakfast.
Chai with oat milk. There's a little bit of honey in there as well.
Oh, wow.
Cheers.
Super fancy. Cheers as well.
Fred, thank you for being here. I know how busy you are.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you on all your success.
That's very kind.
Amazing. As an entrepreneur, we always need to acknowledge that, right?
That's very kind.
Yeah. Congratulations. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness to my son in Austria and in New York. I appreciate that very, very much. And it reminds me of a video that he sent me where you're making him caviar on blinis in some luxury hotel in, what the hell? What are you doing? So good. Thank you.
I was just trying
Thank
to, adjust his sort of, wide spectrum of expectations so that he can expect that from the universe,
Yes, so awesome. And the skiing, he's madly in love with skiing now too.
That's great.
So Fred, Red Lantern, the restaurant that you're sitting in, we have one of the prerequisites of employing our team members. And one of the prerequisites is QAF. They have to be QAF. QAF is quirky as fuck.
Wow.
They have to make a statement in some way. I think you're quirky as fuck.
Oh, so I would love a job, actually. I'm trying to connect back to my original roots. I actually used to work in a kitchen.
Yes, in what capacity?
A poor capacity, but some sort of... I learned to be a kitchen hand.
Was that your first job? What was your first job?
That was my first job.
Okay. You learned to be a kitchen hand. Did the kitchen handship teach you anything? What did you learn?
Well, I learned some basic cooking skills. I say it taught me because, I was not a traditional person who would cook. No longer still am really. I call myself a binary chef. I have 2 meals.
Okay.
And I've got all the ingredients I use, none of them will require any cleaning up afterwards. So it's all in a tin or a bottle so that it can be quickly removed. And there's, very little cleaning up. So it's a binary chef, minimization time skill.
Okay. And does that mean you have 2 specialty dishes that you go to?
2 dishes, yeah.
What are they?
The first one is spaghetti bolognese. And that's what Frank and I used to eat when we were building, our business.
As in from the can, or
No. So well, there is a can involved. Well, there's a tin, like a bottle, a jar for the sauce.
Yep.
But if we had some money, we would buy meat, and so then we'd make it into a bolognese. So we just cook this dish every single night of the week, and several nights we would reuse the same meal. That's what we basically survived on.
Yeah.
And then, so that dish makes me really happy if it's like got the meat in it. And it's like, oh wow, this is a really good night, And the second dish is French toast.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Frank, you've known Frank since school.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
2003, we started officially, working together.
Yep.
He started on the 1st of July, which is the start of the financial year, because he's an accountant, and that's the date he wanted to start. We played in the same tennis team, but we weren't like that close of friends. We became very close friends after school and after university even, which is a bit unusual.
May I ask, Fred, to have a friendship that spans so many years and to have such a solid business partner, what are the qualities that you embrace within one another to have such a strong, or what are the qualities that you're grateful for in one another? What do you bring to the table? What does Frank bring to the table?
I think Frank is an extremely non-confrontational person. Yeah. So he takes care of people's feelings. Like, he just goes out of his way to people not to feel, uncomfortable. Even having very hard conversations and difficult situations, he'll, passively make a way to, make sure everyone feels good. And I would say put myself at a relatively high wave emotion on the graph. So big highs and massive lows. So having a partner like that, it kind of helps, because when I'm bottoming out or really topping out, he's there, and he's not. He's very supportive in that sense. I think that's a major part. And then I think his wave's a little more, he's a little more calm, and I sort of shake the waters up and make things enjoyable and fun that could potentially be, I suppose, a little boring potentially. But if you throw a bit of chaos in, the universe rewards you in some way, shape or form. And I think maybe everyone has a little bit of chaos in their life, and I think maybe I'm a little bit of that chaos for Frank.
Yep.
In some way, shape or form. And that can go two ways,
I resonate because there's a huge amount of care. We really give a shit. Just relating is not one of my strong points. So I surround myself with people who are better relators than I am.
Yeah. There you go.
We make up for what we are not good at, hey?
I was going to pick up, I think one of the things about underlying that, and you probably resonate with this as well, is about a shared set of values.
Yeah. That's so important. Will you share with us what those values are?
Yeah. So, it was kind of weird. Like, we were sitting in our living room. It was a bit of a, we had one ping pong table in it, and I think a single couch. But as long as
the essentials.
Yeah. So we played a lot of ping pong at this table. We got pretty good, but that was meditative in terms of processing ideas and talking about thoughts. It was the way in which we were able to communicate for a lot, hours. We also played 2 to 3 games of Monopoly a night as well, which was, we used to live together. That's why Frank and I, that's what was a bit of an unusual time. And one night before we started, sort of, very early on, we sat down and we wrote down our values. We said, what's your values? Write your top 3. And, this is a pretty, it's I guess a bit of a vulnerable topic, but, we sort of went away. Frank wrote his, I wrote mine, and we came back and they were very similar. I think the first one was something about, legacy, and then there was sort of wealth, and then family, I think, in some way, shape or form. I think my one was fame, and then I realized maybe fame was more fleeting, and over time, I believe, I've realized it's more family than fame, and that's why we're at least...
Nothing wrong with fame.
Yeah, in a way, but I guess it wasn't so much, I don't think it's a value. It wasn't. I realized it wasn't it was just something I wanted. I do value it. I don't think it was my top 3, but I think it was. I realized that those principles together, those values, have helped us stay together and have an conscious conversation about things. Like we can talk without talking and just be in the moment together. And that, I think that's what creates a really strong bond.
Yeah.
Like when I can imagine two doubles tennis players or two dancers that dance together, or, two dolphins swimming together, or like when birds are in that, formation and they're all the sort of just feeling that energy and flying together in something, just naturally came to play where we would play really well together.
Yeah. The word that comes to mind is synergy. A synergistic relationship is absolutely necessary, and the things that are also unsaid or need not be said. Beautiful. So were you always quirky as fuck, Fred? I speak also to your unique style.
Yeah.
The way you express yourself. I think freedom of expression and authenticity in expression is so very important. That's what I teach my children anyway. Was it always like that for you?
Great chai, by the way. It's just incredible stuff.
It's the best.
Also, I think it's the loose leaf nature of it, not the powder. That's what it's all about. Loose leaf is like pro chai.
Yeah, 100% natural.
I think when I was growing up, like I had very traditional parents, went to university.
What did your parents do?
Both doctors.
Okay.
Highly intelligent.
Yeah.
Like off the chart, like top of the state situations, like really, and, applied themselves in not just academically, but in, like they are they're fully formed humans. Like they can talk about culture, they can talk about art, they can talk about history, they can talk about science. They can literally.
Lucky you.
Yeah, but it also creates an interesting environment in terms of when you're arguing with your parents, because you tend to lose on pretty much every topic because they're like, generalists and strong at everything, right? So what it meant was I'd need to move the game. If I wanted to win something, I had to move the game outside their territory.
Uh-huh.
Again, this sort of Sun Tzu idea. It was just natural. I was like, how am I going to win anything? And so I would start something new, or I would create a new environment in some way, shape, or form, and fight in that space.
Yeah.
Or fight is an interesting word, but like trying to get some sort of self-actualization, some sort of significance, because they're highly competitive people as well, and they would let me win in certain sectors, but not actually. Like most of the time, I would lose certain things, which is that was awesome. I knew the level of excellence which they operated at, and no malice, no harm, and so I just naturally moved the game. I always thought need to move it to a different place. And, I think...
Sounds like a fun strategy to me.
Yeah, like it's a constant game.
I'm going to beat you, mom and dad.
Well, like... in some way, like... I don't know where that came from, by the way. But it's... it just naturally came out. I think that in terms of communicating, I do actually struggle to read. Like, I'm actually a very slow reader. Mm-hmm. My spelling is horrendous. Like... It's I reckon, like my eldest daughter corrects my spelling regularly, which is impressive nonetheless. And if it wasn't for autocorrect, it would be partially.
And you know what? I reckon you've done okay.
Yeah, it's coming out.
Yeah.
But I
reckon you've done okay for being a slow reader and not a very good speller. Just saying.
Just hanging on. Yeah. But I think maybe because of that, and because of that, maybe there's some patterns. That means that way I communicate and think and see, and what I'm describing and talking about is probably coming. There's probably some filter there that's coming through, and I think I tend to just talk directly at what I'm seeing. It's very visual in my mind. Anything is a picture or a story, or and that's how my mind sort of, I think, comes to be. And then I think when I sort of share stories, I think people appreciate that. It's just a perspective, it's a narrative, and it works well.
Yeah. I enjoyed thoroughly your book. I'm going to hold it to the camera. I am a speed reader, so I was
Wow.
able to read it from back to front. And seriously, for anyone who is an up-and-coming entrepreneur as well as an already established one, there's so much gold and so many gems in there, and particularly your story and the narrative I enjoyed very much. Can we speak to Finder? I'd like to for you to share with us the story of Finder. How did it come about for you? For those who don't know, what is it all about? And looking back, if you can share that first, but what I really want to get to is looking back then to where you are now. Man, what is your most proud moment? Because I don't think we stop enough to go, fuck, I'm proud of myself for doing that.
Yeah.
For how far I've come, and to not forget where we came from and what it took to get here.
It's really interesting. I was sitting the other day and I was like, thinking up new business ideas, and I was like, what's a major problem in this world? And I started like going back to like really think, things that I'm like really good at and domains that I understand and interesting things which I'm interested in or passionate about. And I was just kicking around stuff because I've changed my role in Finder to be sort of an executive chairman. I work with the CEO, but I'm not actually operational or day to day in decision making, capital allocation. Like feels kind of like.
Is that your forte though, operations?
Not really. I think early on.
I think you're more the visionary.
Yeah. I would say early on, but in the very early days, I'm good in the beginning operationally to get us started and going into some sort of direction or shape or form. So in the beginning of Finder, I literally called up the clients. I would write the content. I literally built the links, got the stories, hired people, wrote contracts, paid bills, like literally every single role.
Because we have to as well, right?
It sounds a bit like my parents now. I think that I'm going back. A generalist. But I think what's instructive about that and what's interesting about that is that, I created the patterns, and here is I just could manifest it in some way, shape or form. Don't know how. Which is unusual.
Not if you're doing what you're meant to be doing in this lifetime.
That's true. Yeah. I think if I go back and I was reflecting at the time, then I went back and I was like, I think I was telling a story about Finder, and I was like thinking about it, and I was like, genuinely, what happened was, and this is, I don't know, like I was thinking about the randomness of the universe and literally the probabilities. There were 12 pieces of paper, A4 pieces of paper with literally just a one line of an idea, and we shuffled them around on this hexagonal table, and this was staring at them, and we voted on 5 of them. And we said, yeah, all right, these 5, and we were like, okay, we go and launch. We launched every single one, and a few more. I think it was like 39 or 4. There were so many sites that I launched. There were unusual, wacky, like a women's perfume site, all sorts of some nefarious, not things that I would be proud of today, but like, I touched the edges of the internet, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it just so happened by chance that, there was a poker side, a sports betting side, and, those didn't quite work out. But the credit card Finder, which it was called in the beginning, it's to me is almost. It was
called Credit Card Finder.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not Finder. Back then, we just, buying a domain like that would have been quite expensive. We had about, I think we had $8,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
And 5 of it I used to buy a computer. Like that's a pretty, back then computers were very expensive, but I needed a computer, and I told Frank, I said, hey, can I buy a computer? He's like, sure. I think this computer will really help us. And this computer was the one, just night, day, anytime, worked on this site and just built it up slowly. But I just thought it was so like just a chance that on those 12 pieces of paper, just by chance, and then down to the 5, that idea was on there. And, I was thinking about that, and I was like, maybe, I think I might be good at coming up with ideas, but I think I'm just relentless at pursuing lots of them and manifesting them in a really fast time frame, and testing it and seeing what will happen and playing it out a bit. And I just don't know. I think over time I've become, better and better at saying, okay, this idea, I'm going from like let's call it a 10% chance of knowing what will happen to maybe a solid 12 now. At least 20 years of experience at another 2%. And I'll take that 2%. But that's probably, I'm trying to get up to 14 and 16s. That's my aspiration. But I'd put the randomness of that down to,
divine timing. You're doing what you're meant to do. I think you're a freaking genius, by the way. I think you're an absolute genius. I read a book recently. It's called The Three Mind Revolution. Have you read it?
No. Sounds incredible.
As I'm reading it, and also because I'm about to interview you for this podcast, as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, that's Fred. I'm going to share this with him. Can I share this with you?
Yeah, of course. I would love that.
So The Three Mind Revolution is written by a friend of mine called David Chiem. He is CEO and founder of a very, very progressive child care education system called Mind Champs. Really changing the game for teaching kids at that age. And he partnered with neuroscientist Professor Alan Schneider. And Professor Schneider says, in this very new world, the ability to cope, the ability to learn from your failures, the ability to pivot and pivot fast will determine success or failure in this very progressive world. And in order to build on the ability to cope, there are the three minds, the three mind revolution. The first is the champion mind. The second is the learner mind. And the third is the creative mind. Clearly you have all three minds, but I reckon you are mostly operate in the champion mind. Can I share with you some things that I was like, and as I'm reading this, I'm going, man, that's all right. So I'm going to read this. This is straight from the book. And I'd love for you to share with me which of these key characteristics resonate with you the most.
Yeah.
Champions are people who don't hesitate to express their individuality. They find unique strengths within themselves, and then to advantage even more is to go against accepted wisdom. Even if doing so makes you stand out and potentially exposes you to criticism or ridicule. The champion mind has the confidence to express their vision regardless of what others may say. The most important characteristic, the confidence to trust in one's own vision. The champion mindset is a way of thinking. It is a way of being, which prepares the individual mentally for success. It is built from equal parts emotional intelligence, communication skills, self-awareness, and self-confidence. The champion mind abhors being ordinary. The champion mind abhors mediocrity. They make the conscious decision to identify what is unique about themselves, and then they broadcast it to the world to leave their individual mark on everything that they do. It speaks to legacy, right? Champions are willing to transcend conventional wisdom. If the old way doesn't work, they quickly find a new way and find it fast. Champions develop the heightened ability to accept and learn from adversity and learn from failure. Champions understand that it is only through confronting adversity that the champion mindset is forged. The champion mind must climb out of the box that society has placed us in.
Wow. That was like that's 10 points.
How cool is that? Which part resonated with you the most, Fred?
So I took a few things that I just wanted to. I've always painted all the walls in our office with whiteboard paint.
Right.
So all the walls can be drawn on. Thank you. Incredible chai, by the way. This is just next level.
Thank you.
Where do you buy something like this, I wonder?
Tigerpurrr.com.
Must be. It's incredible.
Whiteboard walls.
Yeah, so next to my desk, I literally, I think it's actually a quote from the girl's mum's father, or I think it was an article that was written about him. It said something like, like a reject the ordinary or something like that. And I literally wrote on the wall in massive letters with the whiteboard, just reject the ordinary.
Yeah.
Like just, I don't know, like that's, I don't know if I'm, probably might be misquoting that, but it's like that when you said that. And And that's a pretty strong thing to write. In the middle, I sit basically in the middle of an open plan office, and I wrote that on the wall. And, that's exactly how I feel about that.
It takes balls to reject the ordinary. my DNA, if that's where the mainstream's going, I'm going to run this way. It's just in our DNA, right?
Yeah, I think I pick that. I can sense that energy from you as well. Incredible.
So you have 3 children. I've yet to meet Fred or Wolf. I love Portia. I adore both your daughters. Are so delicious. Sachi, Portia. What's some of the uniqueness in them when you think about them? What's the uniqueness in? I'm getting to the point there, but I want to hear it from you.
I think that we have, like Jess and I, have always celebrated their own thoughts, their own directions, and given them a lot of, self, I guess, choice in some pretty serious things, and to experience and own that to some degree, and also celebrated their strengths. I think a bit of the champion mindset potentially in that. And, I think Portia has this incredible level of creativity that is in multiple dimensions and forms. And I think that, maybe again, not necessarily just that skill, but just that self confidence to just go and create.
Yes.
In multiple dimensions. The other day I came in. I was coming to talk to her in her room, and she was literally painting, with paint, in her room. I just didn't know how she came to, start to do something like that. That was what her top, highest choice was to choose to go and do that. I didn't say, hey, go and paint or things like that. But that's to me is quite self-directed in a way. I think Sachi's got a very, again, self-directed mind. She's very fixed on certain things that she wants to go do, and she will go and get them. Use incredible energy and power and influence for something that she wants. When she's decided upon it, it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form, and she will manifest that. And that's quite incredible to watch. To watch people really, the universe mold almost to her highest choice as well.
And so it should.
That was quite an incredible way, where everyone is somehow okay about it.
Yeah. So our kids go to the same school, and this school very much encourages the uniqueness. But Fred, in general, do you think the education system in general and society at large, do you think they encourage our kids too much to stay in the box?
I think some people, if you were to,
or do they encourage out of the box thinking? That might be a better question for you.
I think that's not a naturally trained skill for a lot of teachers. That's a tough one because you have to work with the individual, and that's not. I would say that's not it's very time consuming. They're constrained by resources and time and what they can do, and they're trying to deliver on certain requirements. And I empathize, and I totally feel where they're coming from. Yeah. I do think some of those things are going to come out naturally, and there are great teachers that will do that. They will encourage. It's just one or two lines that you remember from your schooling, and that was that great teacher that had that one thing to say to you that helped you go and become, or give you the confidence just to take another step. Maybe there's obviously a whole series of 10,000 steps you need to go and do, but they just gave you a little nudge to go and potentially do that. Yeah. I think they're out there as well.
And that's also where the parents come in, right? To add our sprinkles of uniqueness and encouragement. This is a curiosity question for me. For example, when I think of my daughter, I feel it in my chest. When I think of my son, I feel it in my solar plexus. Where do you feel it on your body when you think of your children?
That's interesting. I never really thought about that. I think Portia's very much in my head. She's very mental, imaginative. Like, I know my mind is going to be stretched in some way, shape, or form. So naturally, I think Saatchi's very physical. For some reason, I feel my arms. For some reason, I don't know why. And that's unusual, but
yes, very good. And Fred and Wolf.
The wolf is.
The wolf.
He's still forming. I feel it in my back. That's unusual. I don't know. He's just very
supportive.
Supportive.
Strong sense of support there in your back.
Yeah, like he's. I'm not sure. He's just forming. He's very early. I don't know. That's just coming out.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
That was a curiosity question for me.
Yeah.
What gives Fred Schebesta his competitive edge?
I think one of the most powerful things I've found throughout time is a clear intention. Yeah. Being just really clear about this is the goal. And I think in some way, shape, or form, I tend to just set the goal that's unimaginable. Yeah. It's almost overwhelming. People are like, oh, like that's so much. I'm like, okay. But like,
I have the champion mind. Get it.
Let me just show you my champion mind for a second. This comes out naturally. Okay, like I'm not apologizing.
The first law of the universe is the law of intention. We don't have an attention deficit disorder. We have an intention deficit disorder. Everything starts with the intention, and that's why you're the visionary. What do leaders do? They go first. What do visionaries do? They see things very, very differently. There's a strong competitive edge there you've got. That's cool. What gives Fred peace of mind?
Wow. You got some really deep questions. I'm impressed.
Yeah, because you get asked the same questions on all the other podcasts, man. That's
like,
not what Conversations with
so
Purrr is, man. This is Purrr questions.
It's really, it's great questions with great chai. Always goes well.
Yeah.
It's unusual. I think when I heard this line, it's actually from Claude Hopkins, who, one of the greatest copywriters of all time, wrote this book 120 years ago. Great advertiser, right? Like, incredible guy. Wrote this book about his life. And it's still today, I think it's an autobiography that works well. But he said, the cheer of athletics is fleeting, but the ongoing feeling of success is long lasting. And I guess I'm just trying to frame this, but I feel, there's just moments where I just quietly rarely feel, I did that pretty well. That was pretty good. And the results of those are little moments, like with your son, enjoying those. We went skiing, we had this time, and there was just little moments where I just paused and felt, okay, that was all worth that struggle, that journey, that creativity, every single, monster that we overcame, every bridge we had to climb, we fell down, went back and came back. That was worth it.
Yeah. I think it's called joy.
Joy.
Moments of joy in the
like
simplest of things. Fred, what would you like for your children to understand about their father?
Maybe, I think they already do, like, to a large degree. I think they can see it. I don't know if they can feel it, that it takes a lot of hard work and there's a lot of very uncomfortable things which I am doing that they're probably, don't have to experience or see. Yeah. That leads to, this place that, we all enjoy together. And there's I'm hoping in some way, shape or form that comes through. I think it will naturally, but, I don't know. But maybe that might come through. Maybe it won't. I'm hoping it does.
That there is a purpose behind everything that Dad does, which leads them to...
More like it just took a lot of battles and, belief in myself and down times to turn around. And actually, I constantly turned around and got back up to get to achieve certain things
Yeah.
that they experience and they enjoy on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And it may seem maybe it's all comes quite naturally and easy. I could imagine if I was looking there going, oh, well, clearly his dad's going to do that. He's going to do that. He's a, great Monopoly player anyway. So fine, he's going to play that game. But I'm just hoping in whatever they go and pursue that when they hit those walls, that they are okay with that and they hit those walls and then go and try and overcome them in some way, shape or form that I've experienced.
Yeah. I think your daughters are highly intelligent and they will know that their father has set that example. Absolutely.
They got that from their mum, that's why.
2 questions. 2 last questions. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would that be and why?
Oh, wow. It's so good. You should definitely write these questions down. It's just next level. It's really interesting. What's really fascinating and as I was driving here and as I've been preparing for this, I've been thinking about, I do a lot of reading and research on the history of successful people, because I think that a lot of success in the universe is passed on between people.
Yes. And
they have little gems that they have gotten from someone else that someone else has brought. So and I give you a small example of this. If you go back in time and ask, say Claude Hopkins, for example, or his aspiration, his person who inspired him was a building foreman. And I think he might have worked on the railway line, building railway lines. And he was inspired by this guy. This is the guy, the gems that he gave him. He was his guy he aspired.
Yeah, cool.
And, I think there are these people, there was another guy who used to build cars and his aspiration was this, this German guy who built buggies. And he was building a car, buggy builder. He'd talk about things and talk about principles and, and he was so inspired by him. In the same way, I think there are these certain people, I think they're sort of the...
I call them the secret weapons.
Yeah. And if you go back in time, I think they're the Genesis material that's been passed in different remixes, in different formats on.
Yeah.
And so I think there are some people, for example, I think meeting someone I'm going to say a few, but I'll just...
Because you're going to have a big dinner party.
Yeah.
It's not dinner party.
Yeah, we'll have
it's a massive dinner party.
Well, maybe a whole bunch of one-on-ones if we can, at Red Lantern. I think someone like Edwin Land is an incredible guy. Akio Morita, who made Sony with Ibuka. These are 2 people who... Edwin Land built the Polaroid camera in 1947. Contextually, that's during the Depression, after World War II. And he built this thing where, he took his contraption instantly revealed a photograph. Like Mr. Eastman invented and patented film in 1888 and it hadn't changed in, 60 years. And then he builds this contraption and there's literally this spooky photo of him because, obviously at the time there was only that kind of film around where he's literally revealing on a piece of paper his own face. He just took a photo of himself.
Yeah.
He did the first selfie and it was instantly printed. And this eerie thing of his face and his own face staring at the photo. And it's no, and I think anyone who creates that level of magic of, startlingly unexpected. That's and does something impossible. His 3-year-old daughter was on a walk with him and said, "Hey, can you let's take a photo. Can I see the photo?" He said, "No, we have to go and get it processed, because that's what you used to do with Kodak, right?" And then he was going on to explain the science of it. And he realized, why can't you look at that instantly?
Yeah.
And he dedicated 2 years to go and build this contraption. And I just think that's just the level there would have been things that he, and principles and ideas, hopefully some of them are written down in some way, shape or form, but he would have, and I'd love to know those, foundational stones which sort of inspired and drove him.
Yeah, to unimaginable success.
Yeah.
Which is a word you like to use. Have you heard of the golden shadow?
No.
So when I ask those questions and you speak with such admiration and reverence for particular people, one can only come up with those ideas if one can see oneself in that person or has the ability to achieve what they've achieved. That's, and I love that you've mentioned those people, because there's so much of the reflection of what you admire in them that is inside you. That's the golden shadow. Wow. So well done. I want to give you a gift for your time today. I know how incredibly busy you are.
Oh, wow. What is this? That's so, oh, wow. Is this the same chai we've been drinking?
Yes.
Oh, well, I can't share this with anyone except for myself. It's so precious. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have you seen it in the box before?
I have not actually, and it's an incredible, look at this. Look at this packaging.
Yes.
It's like revealing an iPhone. It's incredible. Wow. And there's a little spoon as well.
Yes. Yeah, the little logo on the tip of the spoon.
I love that.
I have one last question. What makes Mr. Fred Schebesta purr?
That's nice. What do you define as purr? What's purr?
What do you define as purr?
Well, I instantly think about a cat that's really happy and in like a cozy place, and I think cats are very interesting. They're trying to kill you, but then also trying to influence you to love them and feed them in some way, shape, or form. So it's a beautiful dichotomy of feelings and emotions. So I think in that moment they feel contented.
What makes Fred contented?
I think that it sounds unusual, but I like a home style meal.
Not unusual at all.
Yeah, I love going to diners, and I love going in the US and eating a very which is very, it's relatively bland food, I would say, but it's homely.
Yeah.
And with other people, and everyone feels just, I guess they purr at the same time, and everyone has what they want and they need in that moment, and then we share that feeling at the same time.
Yes. Happiness is only real when shared. Thank you so much for sharing your time today. I have enjoyed it very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline.